we talk about car safety, uh, our minds always jump to the big things, right?
Yeah,
Brakes, airbags.
the dramatic stuff.
Exactly. But if you can't see the road in a storm, or the person behind you has no idea you're about to turn, well, none of that really matters.
That's it right there. Your vehicle's lights are its communication system.
And that's what we're taking a deep dive into today. We're talking practical, systematic knowledge to keep you safe and, legal.
Right. And the mission today is really about building confidence. We want to move beyond just, oh, I'll swap the bulb. We're giving you the tools to figure out if it's a simple fix or maybe a short circuit or something tied to the main electrical system.
It's about being predictable on the road.
It's all about predictability. If other drivers can't predict what you're doing, braking, turning, then you become a hazard. This isn't optional stuff. It's a must for avoiding accidents and, frankly, failed inspections.
Our sources gave us a pretty comprehensive guide. We've got a maintenance checklist, a forensic electrical guide, and even a breakdown of the big LED question everyone's asking.
A very common question.
So let's start with the absolute basics. What does a roadworthy light check actually involve? Which lights do we have to be checking on a regular basis?
Okay, so it's basically the entire exterior comm suite. Headlights are obvious, of course, both high and low beams.
Wait.
But people often forget the rest. You've got your front and rear turn signals, all three brake lights.
Ah, the third one, the high mount one.
That's the one that always gets forgotten. Then you've got reverse lights, tail lights, fog lights if you have them, side markers, and another one that trips people up at inspection time, the license plate lights.
That is a very thorough list. But here's the reality for, I think, most of us.
Yeah.
We're checking these alone. Don't always have a friend who can stand behind the car while you hit the brake pedal.
Yeah.
So what's the clever shortcut for that solo check?
You do have to get a little creative. The best trick, honestly, is to find a reflective surface. Think of a clean garage door or a wall in a parking garage, especially at dusk.
So you can see the reflection clearly.
Exactly. You pull up close, cycle through your lights one by one, and just use that reflection to see what's working. You can even use big store windows to check your brake lights.
And the dashboard itself gives us some major clues, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The most important one is your turn signal indicator. The sources really emphasize this. If you hear that clicker start flashing really, really fast.
Hyper flash.
The hyper flash, yeah. That is your car's system screaming at you that a bulb is out on that side. It's a built-in warning. Don't ignore it.
And what about just a quick walk around?
A 30-second visual check is huge. Look for cracks in the plastic covers, any condensation or moisture inside, anything that's going to block that light.
And what's one quick win for roadside safety that everyone should probably do?
Keep spare bulbs and fuses in your glove box. I mean, if you're on a long trip and a fuse blows, having that spare on hand turns a major headache into a 2-minute fix. It keeps you safe and on your way.
Okay, so that covers the routine check. Now let's get into the frustrating part. A light just goes out, completely dead. The sources lay out a really systematic troubleshooting chain. Where do we start?
Always start with the simplest thing first and work your way up. The chain is switch, fuse, bulb, connection, and then ground.
Okay, so the switch.
Is it even on? Is the stock or the button in the right position? It sounds silly, but you'd be surprised. If that's all good, you move to the fuse. Find a fuse box, pull the right one, and just look at it. There's a little metal strip inside, and if it's broken, the fuse is blown.
Now this is a point the source has really flagged as a major safety warning. What if I put a new fuse in and it blows again instantly?
Stop. Just stop what you're doing.
Right.
That is a huge red flag. A fuse blowing immediately means you have a short circuit. Power is going somewhere it absolutely should not be going, bypassing the light entirely. You're no longer dealing with a broken light. You're risking melted wires, maybe even a fire.
So that's not a DIY fix anymore.
No, that car needs to see a professional. And whatever you do, don't just put in a bigger fuse. That's like disabling the fire alarm because it keeps going off.
That's a great way to put it. So, okay, let's say the new fuse holds. What's next in the chain?
The bulb itself. Pull it out. Look at the little filament inside. Is it broken? Do you see any black, sooty marks inside the glass? That's the classic sign of a burnt-out bulb.
And if the bulb looks okay, then we're getting into the more nitty-gritty connections and grounds.
Now we're hunting for corrosion. Check the wiring and the socket itself for any green or white crusty stuff, any frayed wires. You can also test the relay for the lights, if it has one.
How would you do that?
A simple trick is to find a similar relay in the fuse box, like the one for the horn, and just swap them. If your horn stops working and your lights come on, well, you found a problem.
The source is really, really focused on that last piece of the puzzle, the ground connection. Why is a bit of rust on a grounding point, which seems so minor, often the real villain here?
This is so crucial, and it's where a lot of people get stuck. The best way to think of it is like a closed loop. Power flows from the battery through the wires to the bulb, but then it has to get back to the battery.
And it does that through the car's metal frame.
Precisely. That connection to the frame is the ground. If that connection point is rusty, dirty, or painted over, it's like pinching a garden hose.
It creates a bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck. The electricity can't flow back efficiently. The resistance shoots up, the voltage at the bulb plummets, and your light is either super dim or it just won't turn on at all.
So the fix could be as simple as just cleaning a metal contact point.
It often is. Sanding that little spot down to clean, bare metal can magically bring a light back to life.
Okay, let's switch gears. What about lights that are working, but they're just sad, they're dim or flickering?
Dimming usually points to one of two things: old age or a system-wide power problem. It could be old, fading bulbs, or it could be physically blocked light from a cloudy lens.
Which we'll get to in a minute.
Right. But you should also check if your car is stuck in DRL mode, daytime running lights.
Oh.
Those are designed to run at a lower voltage to save the bulb's life, so they're naturally dimmer than your normal headlights.
And if the cause is actually electrical?
Then you're looking at loose wiring, corroded connectors, or, and this is very common, a weak battery or a failing alternator. If the whole charging system isn't putting out good, steady voltage, everything electrical in the car will suffer.
And what if one light is way brighter than the other?
You should always replace bulbs in pairs for that very reason, to keep the brightness even. But if you've done that, it often points back to a bad ground connection on just one side.
And flickering, that seems more dramatic.
Flickering is almost always a sign of unstable power. It's a loose connection somewhere, so check those grounds first. Or it could be a sign that your alternator is on its way out and can't maintain a steady voltage anymore.
All right, let's decode the dashboard. We all know the colors, but just as a quick reminder, what action does each one require?
It's a universal code. Red is serious. It means pull over soon, there's a critical problem.
Like oil pressure or brakes.
Exactly. Yellow or orange is a check soon warning. Think check engine, ABS, that kind of thing. And green or blue lights are just informational. Your high beams are on, or cruise control is active.
Let's go back to that angry, rapid blink. The hyperflash. Why does the system do that? It feels like it's punishing you.
It feels that way, but it's actually trying to help. That rapid flash is the system telling you there's been a change in the electrical load. In older cars, the flasher unit is timed based on the power drawn by the bulbs.
So when a bulb burns out,
The power draw drops. The system detects that drop and speeds up the blink rate to tell you, hey, there's a problem on this side. It's most commonly just a burnt-out bulb.
but what if the bulb looks fine?
Then you're hunting for that missing current elsewhere. Corrosion in the socket, maybe a wiring issue. But the biggest reason for this in modern cars is LED upgrades.
Because they use so much less power.
Exactly. You pop in an LED and it draws maybe a tenth of the power. The car's computer thinks the bulb is burnt out and triggers that hyper flash.
Okay, another big safety issue. Brake lights that refuse to turn off. That seems incredibly dangerous.
It is, because it completely removes your ability to signal that you're slowing down. The car behind you has no idea.
So what's the usual cause?
Almost always, it's a faulty brake light switch. It's a small switch right up by the pedal arm. When you take your foot off the brake, it's supposed to open the circuit. If that switch gets stuck or a little plastic pad on, it breaks.
The circuit stays closed and the lights stay on.
That's it. It's usually a very simple, cheap part to fix.
Could it be anything else?
You should check that the pedal itself isn't physically stuck. And in rarer cases, you might have a short circuit somewhere in the wiring or a brake light relay that's just fused itself into the on position.
All right, let's move from the electronics to the physical housing. Sometimes the bulb is fine, but the lens is so foggy and yellowed you can barely see it. What can we do about that?
Yeah, that's oxidation from UV light, basically a sunburn on your headlight plastic. For mild cases, you can actually use some household stuff.
Oh, like the old DIY tricks.
Exactly. The sources mention two good ones. First is the toothpaste method.
Really? Toothpaste?
Yep. Use a non-gel whitening toothpaste. It has mild abrasives that act like a super fine polish. You just rub it on with a cloth in small circles for a few minutes.
And the second one?
baking soda and vinegar. You make a paste with baking soda and water, rub that on, rinse it off, and then follow up with a vinegar and water solution.
And for really bad cases.
Then you probably need a commercial kit, or you can go the more advanced route with wet sanding. You start with a coarse grit sandpaper, maybe 1,000, and work your way up to a superfine 3,000 grit. And this is the most important step,
Yes.
you have to apply a UV sealant at the end. If you don't, all your hard work will be undone by the sun in just a few months.
Speaking of damage, what causes moisture to get trapped inside the headlamp?
The most obvious cause is a crack in the housing. But more often, it's just a failed seal or a missing gasket from when a bulb was replaced.
So it doesn't have to be a big crack.
Not at all. And sometimes condensation is normal because of temperature changes. The housing is actually designed with little vents to let that moisture escape. If those vents get clogged with dirt, the condensation gets trapped.
That's a great tip. You might just need a clean event, not replace the whole unit.
You might. And a little preventative trick is to tuck a small silica gel packet inside the housing to help absorb any ambient moisture.
Okay, let's tackle the final frontier, LEDs. Everyone wants them, they're bright, they're efficient, but there are all these warnings about hyperflashing and something called the CAN bus system. What is that?
CAN bus is basically your car's digital nervous system. It lets all the different computers, engine, lights, brakes talk to each other. A big part of its job is monitoring all the electrical components.
And it monitors how much power they're drawing.
Precisely. So when you install an LED, which uses a tiny fraction of the power of a halogen bulb, the CAN bus system sees that super low power draw and assumes the bulb is broken.
So the car triggers a warning light because the bulb is too efficient.
That's a perfect way to put it, yes. And that's what causes the dashboard warning and the hyperflash.
So what's the fix? How do you tell the CAN bus system everything is okay?
You have to trick it. You need to add something called a load resistor. You wire it in alongside the LED, and its only job is to draw extra power and get hot, basically mimicking the old bulb for the computer.
Or you can buy LEDs that have this built in.
You can. They're often sold as CAN bus compatible or error-free LEDs. They make the installation much, much simpler.
Beyond the electronics, what's the single biggest safety issue with LED upgrades?
The beam pattern. This is non-negotiable. Your car's headlight housing, the reflector inside it, was engineered for the very specific shape and location of a halogen filament.
And an LED's light source is totally different.
Completely different. So if you just jam an LED bulb into a housing that wasn't designed for it, the light scatters everywhere,
Creating that blinding glare for oncoming drivers.
Exactly. It's incredibly dangerous and illegal in many places. You have to make sure you get LED bulbs that are specifically designed to replicate the original beam pattern in your type of housing. Don't trade someone else's safety for a bit more brightness.
This has been an incredibly practical deep dive. The key takeaway is that your lights are absolutely critical safety tools. And troubleshooting them doesn't have to be scary if you just follow that logical chain. Switch, fuse, bulb, connection, ground.
And if you connect it all back to those core issues like dimming or flickering, you'll notice how often the real problem isn't the bulb itself, but the power supply, the battery, or the charging system. And that brings up a really important final thought for you to consider.
What's that?
Given how much modern lighting depends on clean, consistent voltage, how often do you ever think to check the health of your battery and alternator, not just as a maintenance item, but as a primary, preemptive road safety measure?
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.